little bit about just your background, history. You can know the what, you can know the how, but the why is really the most important thing. And you'll see that theme woven into this entire podcast. Like, didn't deserve to be the kid that you would have bet on. I didn't earn that. Welcome to One Tough Day Podcast. I'm Steve VanHorn. I'll be your host on One Tough Day Podcast. Good morning and welcome to One Tough Day Podcast. I'm Steve VanHorn. I'll be your host on One Tough Day Podcast. Make sure you like us and follow us. We have some pretty incredible guests lined up for this podcast series. And I am super stoked for our inaugural episode with Mr. Chad Simpson, my business partner. We're going to get into him in just a minute. Since this is our premiere episode, I want to tell you guys a little bit about what this podcast is for and how the inspiration to create this podcast kind of came along. So Chad and I have had the opportunity to do a lot of traveling, interact over the years with many professional business folks who we've always been impressed with. And while the stories of success are compelling and often very inspiring, after you've maybe grabbed a beverage or two at the bar after a long day, the other stories typically start to come out. And those are the stories of the toughest days in business. And typically those are the stories that I gravitate to. And Chad and I have had many long conversations later about those tough days and other people's experiences, how we can learn from them, how we can oftentimes use their experiences and their educational moments to make ourselves better as people, as business leaders, as business owners. And so it kind of created this idea where, hey, what if we gave people a forum? Oftentimes it's difficult to create an opportunity to be vulnerable with yourself and with a crowd of people about those toughest days. But what if we could create that format? What if we could have the opportunity to ask people those tough questions about the defining moments where they didn't know if they were going to make it in business, maybe even in life, but they got through, and how that basically inspired them and changed their trajectory. So those are the things we're going to focus on over the course of the season. But again, I thought it was only appropriate, since he was a huge inspiration as to why we create this podcast, and basically pushed me at the end of 2025, like, you got to get this going. We have the guest list. Let's get it recorded, ready. So we built a podcast studio. Welcome to Casa de Steve and Chad. And I'm excited to be here today with you, man.
Yeah, I'm just as excited. Thank you.
Yeah. And much credit to our team who helped to build this facility out. You know, Chad walked in today and he's like, wow, this is impressive. This is pretty cool. So that tells you how much involvement we usually have in actually making this stuff like this go.
Yeah.
You might see that general theme woven into this entire conversation. We have a very awesome team. But for those of you that don't know Chad, I don't know how that'd be possible, but he is someone I've known now for probably 15 years. Became friends. Oftentimes we get the question, well, how did you guys connect? So started as friends and then got introduced at a golf outing of all things many years ago, and started conversations just about where we were at in our careers. I was in the Fortune 500 world. Chad was an entrepreneur who had gone through some rough years in business. And at the time I met him was going through some better years, but we didn't know we had some rough years ahead. So those even together. But was ambitious and had a heart of servitude, was very focused on his customer base and his coworkers. And that was just something we always shared. So we would oftentimes have conversations about that and what that meant to us in ways that, you know, I might be able to help him, in ways that he definitely helped me. And lo and behold, in 2020, that led to us deciding to join forces, breaking all the rules, doing friends, what everyone said not to do. Don't go into business with your friends and family. You guys will never be better for this. Well, 5 years later, I'd say it's worked out pretty well for us.
Worked out really well. We got a long runway ahead of us, I hope. So
yeah.
We got 20 more years of this ahead of us.
20? You got 20? I was thinking 15, but yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I'm younger than you are.
Not true. Not true. But anyway, we're going to have some great dialogue today. And at some point, I'm going to ask Chad the question, what was the toughest day? But we'll build up to that, because first, I think it's important that he introduces himself and talks a little bit about not just who he is as an HVAC owner-operator, which is a huge part of his background and history, but also who he is as a person. And I think that actually more tells the story of our company's success and his personal success. So Chad, why don't we start with a little intro, and you tell us a little bit about just your background, history, going back to, I love starting the story in those high school days when everybody didn't believe Chad Simpson might be quite as successful as you become.
So yeah, back to the school days where, you know, C student, D student, realized I really didn't want to go to college, didn't want to go that route. The trades weren't really accepted in the, you know, late 90s, but freshman year of high school, and I know you've heard this several times, but it's a big part of what we're doing. Decided that I was going to write an English paper freshman year of high school, that I wanted to own an HVAC company. And at the time, the teacher, I think, was motivating me by saying, like, you've got better things. You should, you know, really look at maybe going to college, which I then wanted to probably prove him wrong. and prove myself right that I was going to start an HVAC company. So I went to trade school junior, senior year at a local vocational school and got some great base and some great knowledge and worked for a great local residential replacement contractor, but still goal was to start a company. And so shortly after graduation, we started a company, and it was my father and myself, and soon had one coworker and two coworkers, and grew that from 2000 when we started to about 2020. So we grew to about 20 people in 20 years, and grew to a profitable 3.8 million. Pretty successful little thing in 20 years.
Yeah, and don't I know a lot of people look at HVAC now. You got to flash back to 25 years ago, right, where HVAC wasn't cool. Back then, the narrative was like the only way you can be successful is if you go to college, and that was I know because I was going to high school at the exact same time, right?
Yeah.
And I did listen to the narrative, and it's been helpful to me. But I think it's important for people to understand that's not the only path. And it's easier to digest now because it's become cool. People have seen entrepreneurs in the trades go on to do very, very well for themselves. And you've certainly been a part of that contributing story too. But back then that wasn't common.
Yeah. No.
And what is common is for a lot of kids to know that, hey, college isn't going to be an option. So I'm going to go into the trades and I'm going to be successful, they would think. But I think you probably went into it with a different level of confidence that also contributed to your success. You obviously had your dad, who was a smart businessman, who had the opportunity to retire from ODOT early, I think, who brought some value to the table. But what do you think it was, Chad, in your history or in your personality that gave you a little more confidence than most tradesmen that are like, well, I'll go to trade school, I'll get my vocational, and then I'll open a shop and we'll see where it leads me? Like, you pretty much knew, like, I will make this successful. You just said it yourself. Why?
Yeah, I've always had this kind of like, if you build it, they will come mentality in a lot of stuff that we do. Kind of a visionary. Early on, kind of seen as a failure, though, because I couldn't finish anything. So I had to find a finisher to help me see these visions. But early on, I saw what we wanted to do. I could just never quite get there. I think that part of my success was I had pretty low expectations. I wanted to make $100,000 a year. I wanted to live in a nice little ranch home, and I wanted to provide for what I knew would be my future family. So my wife, Lindsay, it's my high school sweetheart, and I knew that we would have children and get married, and I wanted to provide for them in a way that I wouldn't be laid off. So I looked at roofing as a thought early on.
It's tough business.
I didn't want to do that. I had worked with some drywallers, helping my dad's guys on some apartments. And I realized, like, I don't know that I want to do that forever. Worked with the HVAC guys. So I think that's really was the decision maker. Somewhere in 8th grade, 9th grade, worked with those guys. They were always happy. They were, a lot of their work was in the basement. So like, wintertime, they were inside for a good majority of the work, and they never ran out of work. They were never laid off. They were always working, always happy. And I thought, I think I could do that. So as a kid, I could take stuff apart, put it back together, use my hands. I enjoyed that more than like reading. I think I probably read at like a 7th grade level today. Reading and comprehending was never my strength, but it turns out it doesn't have to be successful.
I want to correct one thing there though, because I think the difference is, and you and I understand this well now because we've spent the last 2 years, especially really focusing on this why concept, right? Like, you can know the what, you can know the how, but the why is really the most important thing. And you'll see that theme woven in through this entire podcast. Like, we focus on the why because that's what matters the most. So you had a pretty compelling why, and I want to talk about that in a minute as to why HVAC. And I'd love for you to talk about like the little lady in the grocery store stuff. But at the same time, like you in 7th grade, when they're trying to teach you like, geometry, there really wasn't a compelling why. Did you need to know how to calculate the square root of a triangle? But one thing I've learned about you is it's not an intelligence thing. Like, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met, and you can sit down and analyze a P&L in 10 seconds with crazy math. I mean, you're getting into like algebra, advanced algebra equations when you're doing this. But you didn't understand the why early on. Yeah. Once you found the why, it's funny, you had no issues reading or doing the math, did you?
Yeah, it's true, and it didn't come easy. I give Brad Hone a lot of credit.
Oh yeah.
So financially, like, I think my senior year of high school, I graduated with a basic mathematic course. And of course, you know what teachers used to say, you won't always have a calculator in your pocket.
Yeah.
Well, guess what we now carry in our pocket is a calculator. So that comes in handy because
a very, very nice calculator.
I'll tell you, like, I use it a lot. Basic mathematics, I just kind of pull my calculator out to double check myself. So I would say that that's come in darn handy, and I'm glad my teachers were wrong on that.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go back to the personality side, because I think that's an important thing to understand. You said it yourself, like, hey, I think part of my motivation became when he told me I couldn't do something successful, right? And your belief that while your expectations weren't overly high, something we shared growing up, like I went to a college and got 2 bachelor's degrees with the expectation that one day I'll make $100,000 and have a nice house and a boat and truck and I'll be good.
Yeah.
You went to trade school with the same goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's something I think in your and I part personalities, and I think this is how we also get along so well and why the business has been so successful. That's just like we're going to make it work. Like failure is not an option.
I made a note of that. Failure is not an option. Never was.
You and I were neither one the kid that probably would have been bet on growing up. And by the way, we're willing to admit was not the smart bet. Didn't deserve to be the kid that you would have bet on. Didn't earn that.
I would have bet against him.
Exactly. So we're not a victim. We created our own circumstances.
Yeah, for sure.
But what is it that drives you and makes you want to wake up every day and be successful?
Well, I knew early on that we write our own destiny, especially in the trades. I knew that if I needed more money to pay bills or whatever this was, that we would just work more hours, right? There's 24 hours in a day. I thought, like, I'll just work 7 days a week. If I got to work 20 hours, we're going to make it work. And there were many days that were 20 hours. There were many weeks that were 7 days a week, but I was too foolish to quit. And many people would have quit long before we succeeded.
I think many do, and many don't have that perseverance, right? Yeah. The second they hit the adversity. And we're going to talk about some of those core principles, so we won't go too far down that path. But I think that's such an important thing, just at a higher arcing side right now. Like when it gets hard, you have to make a decision. Yeah. Do I quit, or do I get creative and determined and figure out a way to navigate those obstacles with a little more diligence, right?
Yeah. I mean, running any business, not even a trade business, but running any business is hard. There's hard decisions. There's hard days.
Yeah.
And there's always a financial struggle, no matter where or what. If you talk to anybody on this podcast, there will be a financial struggle somewhere.
Oh, 100%. And talk a little bit. I wasn't there for the first few hurdles, right? Luckily, because those were probably some of the hardest hurdles. But, there's this feeling, especially in the industry, like once I get to $1 million, I'm good, man. Like I'll be okay. I'll learn all my lessons. And I'll be well equipped to go from 1 million to 3 million in revenue. Yeah. And then 3 to 5 will be easy, and 5 to 10 will be, because I'll be good once I get to $1 million. Yeah. Is that true, Chad?
$1 million was surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
We got there.
I'll take your word for it.
And I was proud of it. I mean, I say easy, I guess. I mean, maybe it wasn't, but I look at it like it was easy. But what I didn't realize was making a profit at $1 million was the tough part. Getting to $1 million was easy. What I didn't realize, though, is we probably spent $1 million a year to make $1 million a year.
Not a good business model.
No, but I didn't know that. So the hard part is I just wanted to go run service calls and take care of customers. I didn't realize I had to run a business. And I thought, like, oh, all right. So you give a customer an invoice, they pay the bill, and that's pretty much all the accounting you need. And it did tend to work. At
$1 million, it will.
I did, yeah. So we would... This is like shoebox of receipts days. This was even before we were on QuickBooks. We would manage our daily dispatch through Post-it notes on a calendar.
And we have photos of the office back then that will prove this is true.
I have some of those scheduling calendars that I refuse to throw away. Like I thought, this is going to be funny
Keep
someday.
them forever.
Yeah, this is before ServiceTitan, before QuickBooks. There were Post-it notes.
So let's keep on that track. So you get to $1 million and you think like, all right, I've graduated, right? Like that was easy. So now I want to go to 3 million. Yeah. Because one thing we've learned about this industry, you can't really say stagnant. The companies that do, like, they're usually on their way out of business, right? Like you're either adapting, growing, building, getting stronger, or you're being bought and consumed by those other folks. So what were some of those lessons that you've learned along the way to that $30 million mark?
Yeah. So we'll back way up. Let's stick with $1 million.
Yeah.
So we got to $1 million, but $1 million was a bunch of stuff. $1 million was some commercial work. $1 million was dabbling in some new construction plumbing. Walmart's. There was a lot of stuff. Now, Walmart's came shortly after the $1 million, but not too far. I just wanted to grow a big company at that point. We made it to $1 million. Pretty much mentally, I thought we had made it, right? People would say, hey, how big's your company? I'm like, it's $1 million. $1 million. We do $1 million. Like, it was really special.
Which is like 99% of contractors never even get to $1 million, right? So that's a big thing in this industry.
And so I mentioned Brad Hone. I'll mention him a couple of times, or maybe
it'd be hard for you to tell your story.
It's a hard one not to. He's one of my best mentors and friends that I have. So he's been through it with me. We'll tell that story here, but quickly. But he said, "Hey, what do you guys do in volume?" I met him on the golf course at a trades outing, and I said proudly again, $1 million. And he's the first one to call me on it. He's like, "Wow, that's amazing. What's your net profit?" And I said, "Well, this was early spring of 2007, 6 years into business, by the way. Took me to build that. 2005, I don't know, somewhere in there." I said, "I don't know. It's only, May. We haven't got our, tax return from the accountant yet." And he was like, "Oh, so you don't know, like, your break even probably?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what break even is," I was thinking, but I was too proud to tell him that. And he's like, "So you don't know, like, gross margin or nothing?" I'm like, "No." And I could see his face like, "Oh." And I'm thinking, I wonder what that is, So playing.
Didn't you also have like a stack of AR?
Yeah. Well, I think
if I remember the story correctly.
I think that's what really like intrigued him about me was, like we were out on the golf course, but we were backed up, and I'm not a great golfer, nor do I really enjoy golf. Like, I'd rather work than golf most days, really, truly. And even then was the same. But when you got a free outing, you go to the free outing at that point, right? So it was a vendor-sponsored outing. It was like 4 foursomes were backed up on this hole, and I'm walking around with a stack of paper making phone calls. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Dude, I've got to make payroll tomorrow. I'm just kind of dialing for dollars, calling our accounts receivable."
I love this story.
And he's like, "Oof!" I could see his face. Like, I'm like, I wonder what he's thinking, but whatever. And so
the same thing he still thinks.
Probably. So he said, and I've told the story so many times, like, Brad should verify, but I'm very close on the story. He said something like, "Hey, I'd like to come see you sometime, or come help you sometime," or something. I'm like, "All right, cool." I didn't know what it meant. So he actually is the one that showed me the first KPI card that we still use today. We've adjusted a little bit as we boost our net profit up, but.
So some listeners are going to say, like, wow, what's a KPI, right? Because you would have back in 2005, 2006.
A lot of people still do. And actually, like, when I do a podcast like this, I mentioned KPI. The first request back is, "Hey, can I get a copy of that KPI?" Which anything that I tell you about, I am going to share with you. If you want to see how we departmentalize, because that's the next thing I was going to say, our profit and loss. So the KPI is just a key performance indicator just for the trades. It shows electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. We're primarily HVAC. So I want to know what our net profit should be, what our gross profit should be, what our overhead percent of our income should be, what percent of what we make should equipment be, or material for service, or labor for service, or labor for install. So Brad showed me this. I'm like, wow, like, this is awesome, but what do you do with it? Like, I have no clue. We got shoebox full of receipts. There was no accounting software to speak of, and I don't have any accounting knowledge, right? Nor would I want. If I wanted to be an accountant, I'd have gone to school to be an accountant. That is not what I wanted to do. So he comes down and he shows me QuickBooks and how to departmentalize and how to track this stuff. And it still is. It's garbage in, garbage out, which I learned. So even though we were departmentalized, we didn't always enter our stuff, but we were getting close. My goal was to know before the end of the year kind of where we were at. So if somebody asked me, "What's your net profit for the year?" I wouldn't say like, "Well, the accountant hasn't given it back yet."
Right.
So
for last year.
Yeah. So my goal was to know monthly, close months or close quarters out. So after the first quarter, somewhere before the second quarter ended, it'd be nice to know how we did in the first quarter, right?
Yeah.
So at least you know what you did. Did we win or did we lose? So what I started realizing was like, oh my gosh, we actually lost money the first quarter. Like, oh, that's not good, but we'll make it up with volume. Well, guess what? When you're losing money, it's you don't really make up the profit with volume if you're losing money.
You just scale the losses.
Yes, the loss gets bigger.
Yeah.
But in the HVAC industry, most will know there's really a shoulder season. What I found is pretty much across the United States, the shoulder season is first quarter. So got through first quarter, second quarter was all right. We about broke even, but it didn't make up for the rest. But third and fourth were good. We kind of made it up. So very little profit at that $1 million, if any.
And can't prove, by the way, where anything is or what's happening. So
Yeah.
now I know you and I have joked about this like over the last couple of years because, I came into the business 3.8 million roughly. Ironically enough, in 2005 to 8, when Brad's teaching you about the PL, I'm over here at Xerox ComDoc then learning about the P&L through leading a business operation there. So it's just funny how many parallels our stories are kind of like running side by side, but in completely separate industries. And at that point, we hadn't even met. So he's getting his P&L training. I'm getting my P&L training, which is, imperative to where we are today. Yeah. We get to that next hurdle. Now you're at 3.8. It's 2020. You say like, hey, I'm pretty happy with where my business is at, but I'm not content. I want to scale this thing. I want to go even bigger.
Yeah.
You and I meet. Great. I think I have a lot of things figured out. I remember you telling me it's not perfect and I got a lot to learn still, but I think I got a lot figured out. I think this next stage of 3.8 to 10 million is going to be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Was it easy, Chad?
Well, back that up for just a minute.
Yeah.
So what I figured was we finally got ourselves to about a 3% net, which what I found in the industry, like
1%'s average, right?
I think at the time 1 or 2%. I think now it's 3 or 4 is an average HVAC company. Brad connected me with a book written by Ron Smith. Now it's dated at this point, but it still was a great benchmark. That the 10% net was the goal, and I thought at the time like, who the heck is ever going to hit a 10%? That's like impossible. 10% net profit. Like that's a lot. So Brad told me, I'm going to mentor you and coach you. And I had to tell him I don't have any money to pay you. And he already said like, I already know that, obviously.
I've seen your numbers.
I know you have no money, no extra money, right?
Right.
So he made me a deal. He said, when you get to 10% net, take me to Vegas on a golf trip. And I remember the day I called him and said, we're going to Vegas. And he remembers that too. It's funny. The Vegas trip that we took was still a budget vacation. I remember like we didn't golf the best golf course. We didn't stay in the best hotel, but Brad was nice enough to let me know or let me think that, man, that this was a treat for him, which he had probably been on many nicer vacations by that point, but really let me think that I did him a big favor, although he has been doing me favors for years. So I still owed him a bit after that, but it was a nice gesture, and that's what he requested, and that's what he got, because we finally hit a 10% net somewhere in 09, 10, something like that.
So now flash forward.
Yep, flash forward.
Next level of growth.
So from there, we went from about $1 million, and we grew a couple $100,000 a year up until that 2010 point, but 10 to 20 was awesome. It was a lot of struggles. We had some good people. I was still running service every day, taking a lot of night calls because I enjoyed it. That's what I wanted to do. If I had my choice of sitting in the office or running a service call, I would rather run the service call. That's what I started the business for. We grew that to about 3.8 at about a 16% net lifestyle business, writing stuff off, personal stuff that, my vehicle and stuff like that. So at that point, it was a great lifestyle business. I think like, hey, we've got it figured out pretty well. We've got a lot of processes, written processes. I had matured a lot, really thought like, I think I can be a leader. I think we can now start mentoring. It's going to be pretty easy to go from 3.5 to 5 to 10 to 20. Let's do it.
And then?
And then you and I had been friends for what? 5 years maybe at that point?
Probably 7 or 8. Okay. I always try to think of the kids' ages when we met. But yeah, something like that.
So one thing I know about Steve is he'll always do the right thing. And one thing about me is we'll always do the right thing. Even if it costs us money personally, we've got to make sure our customers and coworkers are taken care of. And I've watched you in some tough situations where nobody saw. Maybe on the golf course, you're talking on the phone, helping somebody out. I thought, that's cool. I thought, man, with his sales experience, because I do not know sales that well. Service was my gig. I can lead service people. I could lead by example, how to fix and how to teach, like
Installers.
That's service, install,
Comes naturally,
technicians in general. It's like my gig. Those are my people. We have salespeople in our company because I really didn't want to. So at that time, I think we had 2 sales guys that just are awesome, still with the company, still high performers, super motivated, positive guys that I love. They got me to that point. But I just didn't manage them well. I didn't lead them well. And I thought, man, if Steve could come and with that energy and drive and leadership for sales, and I could just concentrate on the service and install, we could grow something really, really special.
Yeah. And to dive into that just a little bit deeper. So the funny thing was, I remember this conversation. I remember sitting in your office upstairs one night and talking about this, like, what would it look like? How would it work? And we had the, the procedural stuff of like, how do we make this happen? But then we also had like the operational stuff, which was as important as the other stuff. And you were like, the problem is like, these guys have never had management really before. There's a good chance you're going to run them off. You remember that conversation?
I do remember it. And I thought like, man, I've not done them any justice. And I've probably created some bad habits. And if that's what they're used to, we've got to change. As we grow, I knew we had to make some changes. I really was hoping they would say, oh, this is awesome. We love Steve and we love the change. But I also feared that they would say like, look, this isn't what we want. This isn't how we do things around here. This isn't what we're going to do. I thought it would be a struggle. But
it didn't work that way. And I think that's an important thing. The reason why I wanted to pick that scab a little further is because I think that was a pretty pivotal moment in the way that we approached the business moving forward. That while you thought like, well, hey, by giving them some attention and some process and fixing some things and celebrating their wins and also, holding them accountable for the losses and figuring things like this out, you might run them away. And come to find out what happened.
I thought they would see it as micromanagement because any management after not being managed
seems like micromanagement.
Right. So when you start tracking like average ticket and close rate and how we pay based off of gross percent, I thought they would say like, oh, heck with this, you're micromanaging. And it turns out that that's what they were, hungry for, was a little bit of management and some guidance and some tracking and some congratulations, pat on the back, did great this week, did great today, thank you, is kind of what they needed.
Yeah, exactly. And credit to those guys because they were willing to adapt and change because they could have easily said, like, screw this.
Most would have. I think most would have, but
I think so too.
I gave them an opportunity to sell about $1 million a year each, which I think that they were tickled with that.
And the one guy who, when I came on board, was in his late 50s, who absolutely didn't have to change the way he did things. He could have went and got a job anywhere. He was pretty well known around here.
Absolutely.
Did $4.5 million last year in revenue.
Yeah. So I think he's probably glad he stayed on. I know he's told me a couple of times, like, I wasn't sure at first, but I enjoy having Steve and the team and the other 7 or 8 total comfort advisors that we have right now.
Right. And I don't tell that story for self-promotion or you didn't tell it to promote me either. I think the key is like we took that then, and as you scale and you get to that, like, one thing I'm trying to get to is the problems you have going from 3.8 to 5 to 10 to 20 million. You think like, well, I got everything figured out, so I'm ready for that next phase. But then you get a whole different set of problems thrown at you as you scale a business. You're like, oh, I didn't see this one coming, right? Like it's there was that song, it was like a graduation song, and he said like the more serious problems are the things that blindside you at 2 a.m. on your average Tuesday. I don't know if you remember that song when we were in school.
I don't remember.
But I'm like, man, that's true. Like it's not the stuff you see coming and the Jerry Rollins, like it's the things you don't know, right?
That's a good one. I've thought about that a lot. I like that one.
Oh, me too. Me too. That's why I think I love Jerry so much, and he's going to be on here. So we'll have him on for the podcast. I got him locked in because you guys will all enjoy learning from Jerry. He's fantastic. Very much aligned with us. But we just take that example right there, and we saw like, okay, so now our organization could be primed for growth whenever Chad steps out of that role, trying to be a sales manager. That's not what he is. And basically, when I came in, you said like, Steve, I need your help. CSRs, admin, marketing, sales. That's you. Yeah. You do this well, and let's figure out a way to make this work. Yeah. And our organization grew for a couple of years. And then we realized like, oh, we got to start backfilling. Like we need somebody else to assume some sales leadership because now we're at this next level. Our huge epiphany last year was our CSRs are the most important role in the entire organization. This is our front line of defense. This is who, if they don't do their job well, nobody else in our company gets a chance. Yeah. No technician, no installer, no comfort advisor. Nobody else gets a chance if the CSRs can't answer the phone and book that call really, really well. Yet I was like managing them with the spare time that I had, which wasn't much. And here they are. We're saying they're the most important person. We're believing it when we're saying it. We're not saying it to hype them up. Like we truly believed it. And one day I was like, I think we got to hire a CSR manager. And then we look ahead, like, a little, what has it been? A little over a year later, organization, like what that's done for us and priming that next level of growth, going from that $20 to $30 million mark.
Yeah.
It was huge. And one thing I've always admired about you, and I want to stop for a minute to get your opinion on this, is a lot of tradespeople, and I think this also helps to define your success, truthfully, they can't take their hands off anything. Yeah. Especially when you are the visionary, and you are the visionary for this company. I'm a doer. Chad's a visionary. I'm an executor, right? And sometimes those two things will conflict, but there's so much respect between the two of us that we can have those conversations and say like, hey man, I love your vision and we will do it, but we can't do it now because I got 15 other things that we're set to execute on. So maybe we have to punt that. But sometimes we'll say like, no, that's brilliant. We could do that today. Let's do it. But a lot of visionaries, especially young entrepreneurs, can't take their hands off the wheel. They can't allow the organization to grow because they don't realize they're the weak link in the chain.
Yeah.
They're what's holding the company back.
Yeah.
And the same pride that prevents them from identifying, that's the same pride that prevents them from hiring people and turning it over, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is it about you that, I mean, this is your baby. You grew this. You're the one that went through the struggles in the first 5 years of bankruptcy, making payroll. You didn't file bankruptcy for the record, but you were facing every payroll cycle.
If I were smarter and had known we were in the position, like that probably would have been the advice that I would have received, right? But, like maybe it's time to go work for somebody else, be a service tech, do what you do, make a decent living. But we didn't even know that what we didn't know.
Yeah.
We just realized like, okay, so we got payroll to make. I'm gonna pay the payroll, and I'm gonna go install a furnace on Saturday so I can put money back in the account that I've already written checks for. That's real. That's a true story.
And I think the natural tendency of business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, managers, even if you think about, maybe you don't own the business, maybe you're someone who's running the business, but when you feel pressure, what happens? You tend to squeeze tighter. Like, I got to fix this. I'm going to tighten my circle down. I don't want anyone to see me vulnerable, but with you, it's different. And it's not always been in response to potential failure. Sometimes it's with success. Yeah. Like, you could have lived a great life, organically growing 3% per year for the last 5 years. You'd be at a $5 million business now. It'd be a fantastic lifestyle.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But you wanted to do something more, and you knew to do that, you're going to have to give up significant control of your companies, your babies. I personally, and I've met a lot of operators, a lot of owners in this business in the last 5 years, and knew many professionals before that, obviously, in my life. There's just not many business owners who are willing to do that. Say like, hey man, my best friend, come on, help me run my business. And here you go. Yeah. It's yours.
Well,
run it.
I didn't know that that's how it would go either. I knew that I said earlier, I would rather go run a service call than take a sales call. So the fact that you could kind of lead that crew, and I knew you had I watched you manage sales guys, right? Your guys at your previous career it was fire. It was awesome to watch the culture. I would go to a sales meeting like, how the heck do you do that? So I knew that with you, the sales department would be so much stronger.
But it's not about me. So to take the focus off me, like I've seen you do this over and over and over again with different leaders in our business and in your personal life.
Yeah. But I don't think I was always that way.
No, it's so unusual to not be a control freak and to feel like you have to have your hands on everything at all times for it to go forward. You have a certain amount of like trust you put into people that I know has made me want to work really hard. Yeah. Because I see that trust and I'm like, hey, even though I'm an owner, like I still feel this accountability to the visionary to achieve what their thing is. Yeah. And I appreciate the flexibility to do it my way and not be micromanaged every step of the way. Now, most of the time I'm calling you and saying like, hey, I'm kind of thinking this. What do you think? You'd be like, bro, I'd run with it. That seems brilliant, right? Like that's our most common conversation probably. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that was always true for me. I think I was a micromanager. I think I thought that I could do it better than anybody else in the company because I did every single thing in the company. But what I realized was like, I don't want to answer the phone. I don't know how to manage an office. They just kind of do their own thing. So they were kind of like left alone a little bit. Not that I gave control up to a lot of people because like we had, one or two gals in the office that did an awesome job. They didn't need a lot of leadership at that size, right? They just kind of did it. So it's not like I had to give control up. I just didn't want to do it. And they did a fine job. So it was awesome. It wasn't until we grew a little bit that I realized like other people can do things better. Like we'll use Bobby for an example. Our highest producing, best installer that the company has ever had in the history. I think even our current installers would say like, yeah, he probably is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He came to me and said like, hey man, I want the install manager's job. We're to that point, I want that job. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't take him out of the field. Holy cow,
And
what's going to
Bobby's
happen?
a sleeper, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's from Georgia. He speaks like he's from the bayou of Louisiana, right?
He'll let you believe that he's an idiot. He's going to tell you like, oh man, I don't really know nothing around here. I mean, he is one of the key pieces to this company. So don't let him fool you when you do hear him.
Yeah, you throw an Excel spreadsheet in front of him and challenge him to do job costing. And it's like impeccable. Like
amazing.
he can do formulas, and you're like,
he's amazing. But you'll remember this too. We would hire a new guy, an installer that he was in charge of. I'd hire him on a Friday. He'd start on a Monday, and Bobby'd be like, "Hey man, who's the new dude?" Remember that?
oh, you'd hire him at the gas station and bring him in and just go see Bobby on Monday.
And so finally Bobby's like, hey man, like you hired me to be the install manager. You want me to lead this crew, but you don't trust me. Like if you don't need me, I'll go back to install. He said something like that.
You're right. I remember this. This was 5 years ago. I was here for this.
So this is what I'm saying. I wasn't always open and trusting as I am today. But when I realized like, all right, you know what, Bobby, I'll let you do it. And I'm thinking to myself, now Bobby and I have been together since the beginning. I think he came in 2001 or 2, like right at the beginning. He's been here for 23 or 4 years. What I do know is he's a survivor and he will do what it takes to get it done in the field. I did not know he had the leadership abilities and truly like the financial smarts to manage the entire, not just getting jobs scheduled and getting guys bought in, but like to manage the financials daily to tell me what day of the month we're going to break even is pretty awesome. I didn't know he had all that in him. So I thought, all right, Bobby, let's do it. I'm just gonna have to watch you fail, I guess. Well, to my surprise, he did it way better than I ever had or could.
Right.
So that was an eye-opening moment for me where I thought like, holy cow, people even in the field can do things better than I can do it.
Absolutely. And I think that's just such a hard thing. And I think there's a lot of business owners and leaders out there who are looking for like that next step, but they also aren't willing to let go and trust their people. But I think one thing that we left out there as we talked about that, Chad, that's incredibly important is like, we mentioned the vision. They have to have like a core value. They have to understand the end goal, right? And we focused a lot on the last couple of years. We already mentioned on the why.
Yeah. Like
why we do everything we do. But just elaborate for me. How important is it that you have those things established as you empower your leaders and trust them to make decisions?
Yeah. So even today, when I look around, say our service meeting, I look around and everybody's at different spots in their life. Everybody's at different communication skills, technical ability. But one thing that aligns is, I think of it like this. Would I send them to my mom's house? And there's not one technician in our company I wouldn't. Not one single install or service technician that I wouldn't send to my mom's house to fix the problem. Everybody's got a good heart. And I can't say people haven't come and gone. They haven't fooled me into thinking they're good people. But we quickly figure out whether they truly are or are not. As quickly as we've grown, we have had some people, but it's a quick to hire, quick to fire thing. So like they're off the team really, really quickly when we realize they are not.
The cool thing is most of the time you don't even have to do it anymore. Most of the time they feel so uncomfortable being part of our team. If they don't have good intentions, they just move themselves out pretty quickly.
So it's easy to let go and say like, all right, cool. And I've done that a couple times. And to my surprise, every single time it works. Like John Boland, for example. Mm-hmm. He is one of the best service techs that I know.
He's unbelievable.
And he wanted the service manager position, very much similar. Like, oh man, I got to give it to him because he's been here forever, but I just don't know if he's a service manager. And holy cow, he is a service manager. Managed it better again than I could. But one thing I didn't have to worry is, would he make an ethical decision that would affect a customer? I thought, worst case is he messes a couple things up and he doesn't quite get it. And he wants to go back to be a service tech. We're not having to fix customer problems or ethical issues. Like it's an easy one when you have people on the team like that to give them the ability or the leash, right? And holy cow, I've been blown away. Here's 2 stories that I've been blown away with. So I'm starting to realize like, man, okay, again, people can do things field related better than I can, which I always thought field related was my gig. Office, I would let somebody manage easily. Sales for sure, because I didn't want to do it. But like, I was really prideful of how I managed and led and was able to do the physical work on both service and install. So it was a hard one to let go. But when I did, people did it better, more efficient, made us more money, kept install and service technicians probably more happy and loyal to the company than even I could. So it was easy to start giving up control because I started realizing like they're not going to fail. I thought they would fail. We'd have to fix it, whatever.
Right.
But it turns out that about everybody here can do everything better than I can. But you know what I also realized was I talked about earlier, the visionary being the failure, where you thought like, I can't accomplish anything. I can start stuff, but I never finish a project. So what that gave me was the ability to start more projects because I had more finishers.
Yeah. And I think to support that though, Chad, the reality is like when you're $1 million business, you can be the multi-tool. You can do everything probably as well as it can be done. But I think about it like, the set of fist scars that you keep in your pocket, like you got the knife, you got the spoon, and you got the pliers and everything. And that'll help you accomplish a lot of tasks, but will it help you to do every task as well as it can be done? No, not even close. So as you grow and scale your business, like your service department needs more time, attention, focus, and that becomes key that you appoint leaders who you can entrust. But you have to have the vision, the core values to provide them with. Otherwise, they're flying blind. You're setting them up for failure. And that's where a lot of businesses, I think, fail is they don't have that in place when they hire their leaders or when they entrust them for the first time. They fail and they say like, see, I knew you'd fail. But I think we've been successful appointing leaders here, a large part because your vision, the culture that you created well before I was even here. But also, we give them the tools they need to succeed. So we're not sending them to, build a spaceship with a pair of fist scars. We're, handing them the proper tools that we found like this is what you need. Yeah. And then that can support their process. So if they do fail, then we know it truly was a failure. But I can't think of like a single example, maybe one that comes to mind where a leader didn't work out.
Well, I'll tell you, early on, I had run off some great technicians because they just didn't do what I expected them to do. But what I realized was there was no written expectation. So when I was upset with them, they didn't understand why I was upset. And I look back for guys that I thought like, good riddance, we're better without them. I wish I had some of those guys back on my team, but I wish I would have had more of a written process. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just what my thought was of the expectation for a service tech or the install tech. So we've written job descriptions, and they've shifted dramatically over the years, but at least we had something. A one page, what I kind of expect, you know what I'm saying? So in a month or 2 or 3, when it's not working out, we can just go back and say like, this is what I expected. They can say like, oh yeah, geez, I remember talking about that. But when you just hire somebody and put them in a van, they're not going to do exactly what I would do. The process, the communication is going to be different.
Which is important because our goal is to deliver a consistent process to every customer for their benefit, not for ours. We want them to never be cheated out of our entire process, right?
Absolutely.
It's an extremely important thing. So you hit on a couple things there. So one thing that you and I find ourselves saying frequently in meetings, and I think this is unique as well, and this comes from the perspective of like we've had an opportunity to interact with a lot of other owners operators, right? And I love that over the last 5 years. And again, like before when I was working in B2B sales, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of really influential business people. And sometimes I would see things that inspired me to do things the way they did them. And sometimes I would see them do things that would inspire me to never do them the way that I would see them do them. Yeah. And we really from the beginning allowed this like vulnerability, but we became very outspoken with it the last few years of like, we don't have everything figured out, right? Like we're just very honest with people up front. Like we're going to do this with good intentions. Yeah. But so talk for a minute about that and how that journey has kind of shifted the way that our people respond and the way we built out our leadership team and the way that we built out our culture. You're going to hear us talk a lot about that word, not in this cliche, cheesy way that everybody in the country wants to talk about it. And you as a business owner don't get to choose what kind of culture you have. You got to walk around the office and let them say without you standing there what kind of culture you have, right? Yeah. So it's a scary thing. But how does that vulnerability how do you think that actually makes us stronger organizationally?
So I think that I've always been very transparent, maybe to a fault. Like there's not many secrets. I mean, personal life, business-wise, like
very true.
It is what it is. I say stuff that I know other people are like, oh, you shouldn't say that, but it is what it is. I don't think any of our people, and we have 103 coworkers, 104 coworkers. Yeah. I don't think any of them, if they've gotten to know me at all, would say like, man, I think Chad hides stuff from us. Like, I think
they might say, I wish he hid some stuff.
To a fault, open and honest, and become friends with everybody here. I have spent a lot of time on different aspects, whether it's, hunting or hanging out with them after work or whatever. Like we have done a lot of that stuff together, which is kind of cool. It's built part of the culture. But one thing that I really had a hard time with is talking about me as the leader, even at like 20 and 30 and 40 people on our team. It was like I thought I had to have all the answers. And I think you
thought that's what they needed.
That's what they needed
to have the confidence that Chad will never lead us astray.
Yeah. So now as we grew from 1 to 2 to 3 million and then especially 4 to 5, I still had in my mind, I have to tell them I've got it under control. I've got this all figured out. Rest assured, guys, like I know where we're going. I've got this all figured out. Just believe me. And they realized I didn't. So you had said in a group meeting somewhere, I don't have all this figured out. I think we were in Vegas. You were speaking.
It was on stage in Vegas at a speaking event.
With hundreds of people, right?
Right.
And I remember being in the back just watching because I wanted to see what, kind of the heads were turning and, who was paying attention, who wasn't. And, like half of the people never do and half of the people kind of do. And I'm watching and I'm like, holy shit, everybody is looking straight at Steve, listening, because you were straight up with him. You said this, something along the lines of, look, we don't have this all figured out. We're learning as we go. If you want to know it all, there's plenty of them in this room that claim to be know-it-alls. But what I noticed was I've been to all the know-it-all seminars that same day. When the seminar's over, everybody grabs their phone and they walk, everybody funnels out the back door as quickly as they can. Like when yours was over, I was in the back by the door expecting to have to get out of everybody's way. Everybody funneled to the front because they love the transparency of we don't have it all figured out. We're learning as we go. We need everybody on our team to help us and learn together. So I'm like, shoot, I should just try maybe delivering that same message. And when I did, even at service meetings, like, listen, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's try it. One thing about me, we'll shift back.
Oh,
if it
100%.
doesn't work, we'll shift back. And everybody seemed to rally around it. And they were like, when we start saying like, we need everybody, that's truth. We don't just say like, hey, we need everybody on this team just to say it. We truly need every single person on this team in order to grow it and take care of that customer. So when we started talking that way, or when I started talking that way, I feel like it got to this next level. I don't think I had any problem bonding with any of our people. And I think they all trusted me. But I think there was this thing of like, where are we going? And I couldn't tell them because I didn't really know. So I kind of faked it through there for a little bit.
Fake it till you make it.
But becoming very transparent on everything as far as like we don't have it figured out. We've never run a $10 million company, but we're headed there. We never ran a $20 million company, but we're headed there. We never ran a
it's a
$30 million
transitional
company.
moment. And I remember I went through the same thing. I had great leaders, and many of them are going to be on this podcast. So you'll get to hear from them, which I'm excited about. Where I realized like people are looking to me to be the expert. When I propose myself as the expert, when I make myself, and then it doesn't work out, I lose credibility every time. And I didn't want to do that because I saw like this is like a slow build over the life of my career. If I lose credibility every time I proclaim to be the expert and then prove I'm not a year later, then where am I going to be in 20 years, right? And then translate that over to like my annoyance in the first 12 months of the HVAC industry, where there was literally like 100 well-known guys beating their chest saying, I got it all figured out. Watch me. This is what you do. Do it exactly like me. You'll be successful. Only to find out that, of those 100, 20 would file bankruptcy in the next year. The other 20, you'd find out through better information that they weren't quite as successful as they claimed to be. And then the remainder would come back a year later and say like, hey, I hope you weren't taking too good of notes a year ago because I thought I had it figured out, but I do now. Now I have it figured out. And then a year later, so I was definitely going through some stuff in my own head where I'm like, so I remember when I went on the stage, I was like, listen, if you guys want to talk to a guru, just spin in a damn circle. You'll find one standing somewhere near you. Chad and I do not have it figured out, but what we're doing is working well organizationally for us. And any questions you have, we will always answer them. And that still pertains to this day. Like we have no secrets. We truly don't. The biggest reality is like we could give you the full playbook and most people just won't execute on it because there's no substitution for hard work. And we've worked really hard, and I think that's what we've been able to reap the rewards of. And some people just don't want to work hard and execute because it's hard. But the one thing that then taking that to the next level, Chad, and I want you to talk about this next. So 2 years ago, take that a step further. We can explain to people we don't always know the right answer, and we're going to try something new. But we had one component to that 2 years ago. Right? We already knew how to explain the what. We already knew how to explain the why. And we were really good at that. We had an entire 5,000 square foot training facility that was receiving national recognition, partnering with the state of Ohio, administering training classes for Walsh University, right? Like we had that figured out. We were good at the what. We were really good at the why or the how. But we struggled with one key thing. And come to find out over the last 2 years, it's been the absolute most important thing that we always lead with now. So talk about that.
So the what, we put furnaces in. Right? We service furnaces.
It's what we do.
That's what we do. So that's the story we were telling. That's what we do. But guess what?
And here's how to do it. We can tell you exactly how to do it.
And that's the how.
Yep.
Everybody's got that figured out, right? Everybody that is an HVAC company in the world puts furnaces and airs in. That doesn't differentiate us one bit.
Right.
Everybody services to an extent, and everybody has a process to do it. This is how we put a furnace in. This is how we service it, right? So that's what we were telling our people, and that's what our people were telling our customers.
We'll put a furnace in better than anybody else in town.
Yeah. So Steve turned me on to start with Why.
Yeah, Simon
Right?
Sinek book.
Yeah. And a lot of our team had read or listened. I'm a listener, right? More than a reader, but it worked out really well for me. So I thought, wow, there's about 30 stories I could tell. But the one that I know for sure is like, well, when we're on a service call or a sales call or whatnot, let's not tell them what we're doing. Like they know what we're doing. They called us because they needed a new furnace or they needed a furnace fixed or whatever. So we start talking about the why. Like, why do we do what we do? And really, it comes down to this: is the why is we want to install a better furnace than anybody else in the market that's going to last 20 years, where anybody can make it last 10. So our why is more. We don't want to sell you a new furnace. We want to sell all your friends and family. So we're going to make this last longer than anybody else can, and we're going to care about you more than any other company can. And there's probably more to that too.
And we have this like pursuit of like knowledge, right? Where we want to be really well educated, and then we want to give our folks the empowerment and the knowledge necessary to educate the homeowner, so we can provide them with options.
Yeah.
And then we take that back to the why, and it was a powerful moment organizationally for us. I feel like a year ago, we saw a little bit of a spike in some service calls, well below industry averages, but higher than what we expect.
Callbacks, you mean?
Callbacks, yeah. What did I say?
Service calls.
Service call, yeah, callbacks, sorry. So we had a number of callbacks on install service, again, still well below industry average, but well above what we shoot for, which is virtually none. Mm-hmm. And so we started talking to people, and we found out like, well, we kind of deviated a little bit. I don't know if everybody, because we had grown so fast organizationally from 30 people in 2020 to 100 plus last year. I don't know that every person here, I think those first 30 that have been here for a while knew pretty well what your why was.
Yeah.
But I think we need to put everybody in a room together and talk about our why, our organizational why, and even tie it back to the 17-year-old kid in high school going to vocational school and what his goals were for the company. And so just talk about the little lady at the grocery store real quick.
So I said earlier I had fairly low expectations. Like I knew I would live a comfortable life.
From an income level,
thing.
Yeah.
So my why was never to get rich. And I think there's a lot of people out there right now that their why is to get rich. So if the why is just to get rich as quickly as you can, then just stop it right now. It's not going to work out. You're in it for the wrong thing. My why was to take care of that customer. I love serving the customer. I love fixing furnaces. I was really good at that. I could install a really nice looking job. I was so proud I would sign my installs, which now my son gets to see, right? Because he's getting into the trades with us. Our coworkers will send me a picture of like my face I would draw with my name signed on it. Like I was super proud, and I knew people would see this. I never saw the point where we start replacing the furnaces that I put in, 15, 20, 25 years ago. But it's super cool that I'm starting to see furnaces that are coming back to us now, the same customer, because we did the right thing. So what Steve's referring to is my why was the feeling I got on a Sunday afternoon after I fixed Mrs. Smith's furnaces on Saturday night. See her at the grocery store, give me a hug, and it would just make me emotional almost. I never remembered walking away from that like, man, I charged her $200 last night. I never remember how much the check was, how much the profit was, how much we made. Like it was the feeling of serving that customer, or like seeing the son of Mrs. Smith maybe, or whoever, that would say, hey, thanks for taking care of mom last week. That meant a lot. I never thought like, sweet, you know how much money I made on that service call? Don't remember it, but I remember the feeling of why. And I tell our technicians, like, if you're only out there counting your dollars, how much is it going to make me on this call? This is probably not the right company. Now, our technicians do really, really well. I think maybe 2 to 4 times more than a lot of other people will make as a technician, but it's simply because they do the right thing. The why is, I want to take care of that customer. And when we take care of the customer the way I want the customer taken care of, everybody wins. And that's something we didn't talk about for a little bit.
Right.
I think our coworkers sometimes thought like, well, I'm just in this big company and just going through the motions and nobody really cares what I do. But we have
Now
to.
we talk about it almost every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And not that the why, not that I lost the why. I just thought everybody knew the why. When we had 20 coworkers, I think I could rally everybody to work 24 hours straight with me, and there were probably times we did.
Yeah.
But as we got to 40 and 60 and 80, they don't remember the why. They don't remember the very beginning, although I just assumed everybody would. So I assumed everybody was doing exactly what I want. I mentioned earlier that I feel very 100% confident that I would send anybody to my mom's house, which means I would send them to your mom's house. I know they would do the right thing, but they didn't always. They didn't communicate the way I wanted. They didn't.
Sometimes they would rush. They'd feel the pressure.
Yeah, they would
whatever,
rush.
Yeah.
We would create our own callbacks because what they thought to be the truth is everybody just wants it fixed. But what the truth of it is, they want options. So I say this, I can fix any furnace, right? That's what I do. I'm a technician. That's what everybody on our team does, and they think that's their job because that's what every technician thinks their job is. But what our job is, when we talk about the why, is we want to put that control into the customer's hands and say like, hey, great news is I found the problem is this, here's the price. I also found this, this, and this. That's going to cause some issues down the road. The furnace is 15 years old. Life expectancy is about 15 years. Why don't we get some more options before we put any money into this thing? Because it is going to break again. And most of the time customers think like, oh, shoot, that's great. So we take more of a proactive approach.
Right.
We communicate to the customer to the point like, why don't we get you back under warranty with some financing options that work for you? And what we found all of a sudden was our 5-star Google reviews spiked. We started getting phone calls to like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad like I got these options because I don't want to go through this again when it's 0 degrees on a Saturday night trying to figure out how we're going to fix it. And they are at that point where it is going to happen. Now, if the customer says like, hey, thanks for the info, I really appreciate it, we're just going to fix it today, then fantastic. We've done the right thing. The why is we're going to educate them, give them the options, put it in their hands, and let them make the decision.
So my why was not your why. My why was not to repair furnaces and air conditioners.
Yeah.
That was never it.
Yeah.
But I saw so much alignment at a deeper level of the why with you and I from early on. And it was always funny to me. And I think you saw the irony in it too. Like I remember we were at a golf outing. Funny, we have so many golf stories for two guys that didn't golf much for like 20 years. You know, I'm starting to get back into it again now that Gavin's into it. But I remember, you know, them saying like, hey, they kind of oversold the golf outing because it was for a fundraiser, right? And so bear with us kind of thing. And then they dismissed for lunch and everybody flees up to the table. And you and I sat there. Do you remember this?
This is food line.
This is food. This is the food line at the table afterwards.
Yeah.
And you and I sat there and you're like, why aren't you going up? I was like, I want to make sure everybody else gets theirs before I get mine. I was like, why aren't you going up? You're like, the exact same reason. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then you and I sat at the table while everybody else went up. I said, it's funny, man. It's like a social experiment. I've always thought it was interesting to look in a room at who rushes up first and fills their plate because they're petrified there won't be enough for them to get seconds and thirds versus the guy that gets in line last and takes one because he's afraid there won't be enough for everyone else.
Yeah.
And it tells me a lot about leadership. You're like, oh my God, man, I've always watched the exact same thing. And there was just little things like that early on told me like, if we ever did do something more together, I think we're going to be okay. And I'll just tell you, man, over the last 12, 14 years, whatever it's been to me knowing you, like, I don't think I've ever known a more generous person. I don't think I've ever known anyone that will do more for people than what you will. And we can say all the other reasons why our business is successful. And I think some of it's spiritual. Obviously, I always look for those elements in life, but you're such a giving, selfless individual. I do think part of it is a reward. I think everything that we're given in life is kind of like a loaned gift from God, right? And I think God's entrusted you with more because he knows you're going to do good things in the community, from us founding our own 501c3 that gives away hundreds of thousands of dollars of toys every Christmas to some of the other things we do in terms of giving away free furnaces and air conditioners and things like that. But I think when our people see that mentality and that like never get in line first mentality, right? Just using that as an example, like that defines your culture. And then back to my earlier point that you as a business owner don't just get to decide. You don't get to show up today and decide to have a great culture. Like it's what you believe, it's what you do, it's the way you represent yourself. It's in everything that goes into your people formulating an opinion and the community formulating an opinion about who you are. And it's at such a deeper level than just, oh, well, how much is your furnace or air?
It's funny you said that. So there's one of our coworkers, I would say one of our higher leaders right now. When we first hired him to come on board, he was the one that rushed to the beginning of the line. And I won't say his name, but you'll know. Rushed to the beginning of the line, and it bothered me. I thought, like, I don't know that he's a leader, but I would never say anything. And I know that you never said anything. But what tells me when you start leading by example, it's so simple, right? Like we're talking about a food line here. We're not talking about furnaces or airs. We're talking about life. What I noticed in the past year or two, as he was watching us and others lead, he is now the last one in line to let everybody else go first. That didn't happen before he was here. It happened after watching our leaders lead. I don't think we're just putting furnaces in here. I think we're changing lives. I think we're giving opportunities to make more money, but I think we're also changing how they look at respect and how to treat other people, just because they watch us do it.
Amen, man. And I'll tell you, like, that's my driving force. So, and that way we share that why. It's not about the HVAC. It was never about the copiers and the technology at Xerox. It wasn't about the cell phones back in my teens. It was always about that heart of servitude and taking care of people and making, meaningful relationships and helping to elevate others. And I think that is more what's contributed to our success than some of the X's and O's. Now, you got to have the X's and O's, and thank God Brad taught them to you, or we probably would have went bankrupt before we could have ever got to the other more important stuff that's happened since. But I think, to your point, and that's why I really wanted to go down this rabbit hole, too many people are finding the trades now with that order reversed.
Yes.
It's all about the numbers.
Yep.
It's all about, like, hey, I want to partner with private equity and I want to become a millionaire fast and retire young.
Yeah.
And the customers become a byproduct.
Yeah.
And they suffer
Yeah.
because of your ambitions that don't make them the focus, right?
It goes this way, and I'm going to say right in order. You can say it with me. What comes first in our company?
The customer has to win every single time.
What comes second?
The coworker has to win next.
Third is what?
If we can, then we will win. But if you do the first two things really well, the company will usually win 9 out of 10 times.
99 out of 100 times.
True.
It's a giver's gain mentality, and if we give, we're going to gain. Now, there's some times that the customer wins, the coworker wins, that we don't, but that's okay. It's so minimal. If it happens in that order, we will be just fine. But I think we spent 20 years building a foundation, a very strong block foundation to build a really massive house on.
Absolutely. Agree with that.
I've seen a lot of other companies that built it the other way.
It's a house of cards.
First, the company wins. It's built on a house of cards. The company wins. And it's been easy to win. Since 2020, It's been easy to win on a house of cards. Now they're starting to crumble. You'll see, and you'll see more and more
for 2 years,
happen.
they've been crumbling.
So if you have it, if you're building this amazing business on a house of cards based off of first, I got to win. The company wins, I win, I want to make a lot of money. If our coworkers can win, that's great. And if the customer happens to win, whatever, right? If all you're doing is just fixing a furnace and moving on and overcharging, whatever, but not giving a good service, it's completely backwards. So I would suggest this. If you're starting a company or if you have a company and you're not putting the customer first. Now, we all say, like, oh, we put the customer first, but we truly put the customer first, which has led me to 25 very well-slept nights. I don't have to ever worry.
25 years of
25 years
nights.
of what?
Yes.
Yeah. What I say, 25 nights.
25 nights.
Yeah, we've had. Well, the past 25 nights have been exceptional too. But the first 25 years, there were nights that I didn't sleep well, but it wasn't ever because we didn't do the right thing for the customer. And that feels good.
And I knew enough about you 5 years ago to join you on this journey, and I'm so glad I did because I knew that about you. And I'll tell you, like, as you go to attract new talent, if that also isn't one of your founding principles, if that isn't like a defining characteristic of you as a person and your business, you're going to have trouble finding top tier talent because they'll identify it. They're talented for a reason. They've seen success for a reason, and success attracts other success, right? Yeah. So organizationally, you see people struggling to develop their leadership teams, and oftentimes I'm left thinking when I hear this, like, well, are you the type of person and do you have the type of culture and the type of business that's going to attract those people? If you don't, then you shouldn't be surprised that nobody wants to come work for you or come work with you, right?
Yeah.
That's such an important part. And we'll see it on Facebook, right? All the time, like hiring another manager, hiring another manager, hiring another manager. I need another manager. What happened to that other one? I sucked. Yeah. He sucked. He ran off. And it's so common for you and I to sit in a meeting. And I'll give you a lot of credit for this because I learned this from you probably starting 10 years ago. Early on, sales is tough, right? And every job's tough, but in sales especially, like oftentimes there's not as much introspection as there should be. It's easier to blame other people on why you're not successful. So especially in this industry, it's easy to blame the weather and other factors. And we've learned how to take control out of those things. But we'll sit in a meeting and someone will say like, blah, 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 blah. Your natural instinct as a manager, a leader, a business owner is to get defensive and to say like, no, you didn't do it right. Or this is why you screwed up. And most of the time I find myself kind of sitting there now, like listening and thinking like, they feel that way for a reason, right? And the conclusion that you and I walk away with more often than not is, we failed you. And like, we'll say that in a meeting, we'll say that directly to someone in a one-on-one, like, you know what? I don't think I have given you the resources, the skills, the knowledge, whatever it is. I thought I did until you just spoke. And now you've shown me that I failed you. And maybe my failure was not better communicating with your manager, because oftentimes you and I aren't the direct manager anymore, right? There's a couple levels between us. But when I worked at my last job, I found that oftentimes it was very defensive and putting the onus back on that person. Well, you haven't earned a raise yet. You haven't blah, blah, blah. Or the reason why you have so many callbacks is because you're going too fast and you're not taking. But then you sit back and you think like, why are they moving too fast? Have I taken the time to explain the why of what we do? Have I given them the tools, the training? And we've gone through this twice now. We went through it on the HVAC side the very early years where we were growing so fast. We were like, bro, we got to slow down and train better. This is on us, me and you. This isn't on our people. They want to do a good job. We're rushing them, or we're trying to grow so fast that we've gotten away from the quality element. And again, the focus was on, staying way below industry average, and we always have been. So you can accept that as good enough, or you can say like, no, we're going to get back to our own standard, which we did. And then we had to do it again this past year with the plumbing. We're like, we got to slow down a little bit and focus more on training. We might be out kicking our coverage. And the cool thing is we'll always do that. But I don't think that's normal, because I don't see it very often where people sit there and listen and then say like, you're right, I failed you. I need to give you the resource. I need to give, and it goes back to like having the career plans, career progression, process, confidence, and the willingness to listen and adapt and admit that you don't always have all the answers, right?
Well, I think part of it is the team that we have too. And you and I, for example, right? Like I might see something, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. And if I can explain it well enough, you'll say, I get it. I know how now we can train these guys a little bit better. Let's go here, learn how they do it. Let's bring it back. And I'll say, awesome.
And we love that. R&D is essential in this industry.
Rob and duplicate. That's right. So, I mean, it's a powerful team. And had I not trusted you to do 75% of the work, and 25 was me just getting it started, then we wouldn't be where we're at.
I think it averages out if you count the 20 years you had in before I got here. So I think we're good still.
And the team that we have, I mean, you don't do all the work, right?
No, gosh, no.
But you know who's good at what, and you can see that, and you put them in place. Like I'm the guy that went to the conference and came back with 40 things to implement the next day, and we implemented nothing. Again, back to that, like I always felt like I was failing, right? So what I've learned is I'll still bring some stuff back, and I'll come back pumped up. We're going to change this. We're going to do this. And many times you're like, holy shit, that's a great idea. We should do that. We're going to do that. Let's go visit Eco Plumbers, for example.
Yeah.
I love those guys, right? Like
Aaron does a great job.
Yeah. So there's some stuff that on the plumbing stuff, I said like, hey, we're struggling, Aaron. Can we come check out your process? And he has a great process. So we R&D'd it. We robbed and duplicated. You went with me. You could see the vision, and then you brought it back and implemented it. See, I would have gone down there. I'd have seen the vision. I'd have hung out all day. I'd have had fun with all their guys and gals, and we would have ate lunch. I would have come home. I would have started the project, but then there's other stuff I've got to do today and never finish the project, which would have left our plumbers in a spot where we would have probably had some high turnover. We would have had some low tickets. We would have had a lot of callbacks. We would have had a lot of disappointed customers because we didn't communicate well.
We fixed it, though.
We went
down there, we implemented it, made our own, and gave the why, and when we delivered it to our team. And we have a rock star manager up there who does a great job of holding those folks accountable.
James is
and
awesome.
We do a really nice job now. So great point, man. Well, we could go on for days, but I got to get to a couple of the key important, and this is what we do, by the way. So for those that haven't been around us, like this is what we do. And I remember you talking about like going to places. How many times were you and I like sending each other podcasts? Like you'd listen to like a Tommy Mello episode and send it to me. Then I'd listen to like a guest on Jason Walker's show and send it to you. And like, this is good stuff. So I think that that desire to like learn more and know more, it also ties in so strongly with like the I don't have all the answers. Because once you feel like you have all the answers, then you have no desire to learn anything more. So tying that in with my next question, I very much pride ourselves in being an innovative company. I think we are on the forefront of innovation, right? And I think most people in the industry think of us that way. Our aspiration isn't to own the world like some companies. It's to manage our piece of the world here in Ohio and do a great job here. How do we balance, and how do you grade this, Chad, and plot the next steps as our company visionary between staying true to who we were traditionally but also being industry innovators.
Yeah, that's good. So obviously my decision every day when I bring something to you or to the team, I want to change this. It's because there's a problem. I don't normally want to change stuff if it's working well, right? If it's supporting our growth and it's working well. Most of the time it's technology.
There might be a desire to do it better.
Yeah. And most of it is that if a customer was let down, all I can do is see it. And then I come to the team and say, like, man, I've got this thought. Like, what if we track it this way? Or what if we build a spreadsheet for this, which, Bob, just today we built another spreadsheet.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
A visual that I can envision it. I just can't build it. And you know what he said? Hey, I'm going to go. I'm out of here. I'm leaving this office. I'm going to my office. I'm going to build this today for you. Yeah. Which is awesome, right?
He was like one of those pieces that kind of fell in our lap. A leader we developed that, or we went and recruited basically.
Well, he can't. Yeah, fell in our lap. I would say
can do anything with a spreadsheet, and he loves numbers and all the things that you and I don't. That's because he's more on the service side, right? Like you hate that numbers piece. You love seeing the numbers, but you don't want to figure out like how to get there. And then on my side, like I'm like, yeah, Bob, that's all you. So he's been great.
So all of the innovation, most all, is to better serve the customer.
Right.
So I think that's the goal. That's the vision. That was the original vision 25 years ago, is to serve a customer and to serve them the best way that the industry possibly can. We want to be the leaders in that industry.
I threw you a meatball there because I knew that would be your answer. Yeah. I know you well enough to know.
Good.
And it just reinforces again that if you want to be an innovator and you want to still pay homage to your tradition and your core values, it has to go back to the why.
Yeah.
It has to go back to why we do what we do and what the focus is, and it is on better serving our customers and coworkers.
Yeah. So I'm glad you didn't just say customers, because next is coworkers. So I look at that too, like, okay, so we're taking care of our customer, but we also could take care of our coworker better. Why don't we try this? And sometimes people are like, what the heck are you talking about? But I feel that this is our family, and our family has family, right? So we've got 103 or 4 coworkers, which equals like 400 and some spouse.
When you count the
kids,
wives and kids,
right?
100%. No school today, so we got half of them running around.
It is awesome to see. Yeah, it's cool to see that there's a lot of kids running around our office today, which is awesome. Yeah, and most would see that like, what a distraction. Like we were even on Zoom calls, like fairly important Zoom calls, and there's kids running in the background outside the conference room. Like, this is who we are. Take it or leave it.
People on the calls are like, "Aw."
But you know, one thing I don't think any of our coworkers today came to work stressed about was childcare.
Yeah,
because I think there's 4 or 5, and 2 of my own actually I saw today.
And they're hanging out all together. All the kids are hanging out together, and they, direct Grubhub to McDonald's, and I mean that I love it. I know you do too. It's just like it's such a strong statement about our culture again that we don't get to define. These folks get to make it for us, and it's so cool.
And what's fun about that, and not to go on and on, but it feels good. I don't think anybody called for permission, right?
I think they know they didn't have to.
It's a snow day. We have 4 large screen TVs with different gaming systems, and I would imagine that those things are getting hit up pretty hard today. But that's
it goes back to when we empower our leaders to make decisions, and there's like a trickle down effect. Like, does it align with our core values? Does it align with our vision, our why? Like, if you ever are making a decision that is best for, like, is it better for our customers to have you here today working on a super cold day? Yeah. Darn right it is. Is it better for you as a coworker to have you working here today? Yeah. You need the income. You need a job. You need to be here serving the customer. Yeah. So if I'm willing to make it work and bring my kid to work with me today, do I know that this is a safe environment where there's things they could do? Then my boss isn't going to complain to me. Like, So if you just ask yourself these questions, like, does this align organizationally with who we are? Then you're good. And they know you and I would never show up and be like, what the heck's your kid doing here? We're going to be like scooping them up, and you're getting a Live Ice this morning, and we're like grabbing candy for them. So that we might do. You might send them home sugared up a little bit. Well, I got to bring this plane in for a landing. And in order to do so, I have to ask the most difficult question, Chad. And I know this was tough for you. You knew the whole plot theme behind the podcast. So
and I'm still thinking, like, I'm not even sure what I'm going to say yet.
Well, I think you're so vulnerable with some of the other stories. Like, so many business owners would say, like, well, my toughest day was the day I thought I was going to go bankrupt. So I took a stack of invoices to the golf course to make my collections calls. That would be many people's toughest days, but those are just kind of woven into the fabric of your story all over the place.
And I didn't think I was going to go bankrupt. I was.
You were worried you might not make payroll.
I was too ignorant to know that I probably should have gone bankrupt. I don't like the word bankrupt because we never have, but we probably, like, when other people do, like, we probably should have. But anyway, But yeah, very tight financial times, we'll say.
So knowing that there's been several of those, that can't
Yeah.
be the toughest day. So if you had to guess the one tough day, if you had to put your finger on it and say, this was my defining moment, this was the day that kind of changed who I became since and had a large impact, what would that day be?
I have to say it revolves around financials. The tough day was never, I saw a customer that we took advantage of. Like that was never a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like we took care of our customers. We took care of our coworkers. We've had struggles along the way, right? We've created issues where you had to go back and fix something for a customer, but we always did. We created issues internal with coworkers that we always worked out, and it always worked for them. You would be hard pressed to find somebody in the public local area that says they didn't do the right thing for me.
Yeah, they might say like they're too expensive or something,
that could be.
but they
That's
just
okay.
don't understand our pricing strategy and the way that, when you offer your coworkers 401ks and a great place to work and career paths, and you drive vans that are reliable so we can actually get to your house on a cold day.
But it's
it comes
fair.
at an expense.
It's fair price. You know what I mean? So like, do we charge more than a one person in the truck that will leave you without heat for a week? We probably do. But our customer base appreciates the same day service, next day install in many cases. We take care of the customer. Now, we do probably charge a tad bit more than some of them, but we're definitely less than a whole lot of others. I think that we charge a fair amount for the service that you receive.
Right.
So that was never tough. Like I'm trying to think what is the toughest day. So I'm thinking, man, I haven't really had that many tough days. But in reality, the more I thought about it was I've had a ton of tough days. But if I concentrated on all the tough days, I would have quit years ago. So I think the tough days, now you know a lot of the tough days. You could tell me.
I was here for you.
Could tell
I was
me,
here with you.
You
on
could tell
all
me
this stuff.
150 tough days that I've had.
Right.
But it wasn't like, man, remember that New Year's Eve where I missed New Year's Eve completely and you took my wife and your wife to dinner with another small group probably? And they're like, where's Chad?
I remember those days.
Running service calls. I ran service calls New Year's Eve from 7 a.m. New Year's Eve till 3 a.m. the next morning. And then my wife would come and wake me up on the couch and say like Happy New Year's when she got home.
I love the stories you tell of before you and Lindsay were even married, how she would drive you around to your service calls. She would literally sit in the car while you went in and fixed a furnace and wait for you and read a book or whatever.
She would, I remember a Christmas Eve where she would ride with me. This is before we had kids. Remember, like she was cheering high school football a year behind, or 2 years. She graduated 2 years behind me. So I was running a company as she was still in high school. So I'd go watch the football game, watch her cheer. We'd go to Pizza Hut, and then we would run service calls. Like we were young. I don't know, and we had no money. So it's not like she was with me for the money.
Yeah.
So it must be my good looks is the only thing I can figure. It has to be. No. But she stuck through that. And I remember like coming out of a house. I mean, she was 21 or 22. I mean, we were young and saying like, hey, Merry Christmas, like waking her up because it was Christmas Eve and she was running service calls with me. She didn't have to.
It's crazy.
She did. It was awesome. So some people would say like, those are tough days. Like they were sometimes tiresome, but that's what I signed up for. Had I done it for the money, I would have quit, and I would say those are the tough days. But those were the best days, man. Those were the awesome days of building the company because we took care of the customer. The feeling I got Christmas Day when I was taking care of customers, or New Year's Eve when I was taking care of customers, that's what got me through. So I'm thinking about this leading up to this podcast, and those aren't tough days. You know, like what people would think those were tough days, they just weren't. So I think some of the financial struggles were tough. I remember like getting our power shut off at home.
That was before me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
heard those stories.
I remember getting our water shut off, and I remember having to tell Lindsay like, hey, do we pay our electric bill today, or do we pay payroll today? And she was like, well, I guess we really need to pay the people that work for us.
Yeah.
But now we hid that well. My kids will never know that. My parents didn't even know
They will
that.
once they listen to this podcast.
I told my mom this story, and she's like, why wouldn't you have said something, honey? I'm like, it wasn't your responsibility. I got us into this. I signed up for this,
Right.
and I knew that we would get through it. So it did get financially easier once I learned our finances, and I knew how to charge and how to be fair and all that good stuff. So
it got easier, but then to that point, like let's flash forward to 2023, man. We were growing fast. That year we went from, I think it was around 10 million in business to 17 million, I think was 2023.
Yeah.
On paper, we were making money.
Oh, and it looked good. We were wrapping
great.
trucks. We were building build-outs. We had
high
a
net
call
income.
center.
We had
it
good
was
EBITDA.
awesome. So,
But we were broke in the bank.
so people say, here's a funny story. People will say to me, even in the past year or two, man, you guys are just so much bigger than us. It's not even relatable. You probably don't even remember being 5 million. And I'll say 5 million was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And people were like, really? I thought you were like huge forever. Like, no, we weren't. And the tough times were wrapping vans.
Oh, we were putting it, I mean, it was going on the balance sheet and whatnot. So, again, on paper, you're making money. It's profitable. You have a high net income. But every single Thursday, you're getting the phone call like, we have $120,000 in payroll due tomorrow, and there's 50 grand in the bank. And you're like, shit, we got to rustle up. Now, by the way, you're also owed $500,000 in AR.
Yeah.
And
we weren't good at collecting
customers.
We weren't good at collecting bills either. We were so focused on taking care of the customer, moving forward, taking care of coworkers.
Can I pay you next Tuesday when I get paid? Like all right.
Well, sometimes that wasn't even the conversation. We would just leave the house without getting paid,
right,
and assume the customer would send us a check at some point, but they just don't. Like, cash is king. We have to have cash flow. We had decent cash flow. I thought we would grow the company off our cash flow, and it turned out we really couldn't. Now, our coworkers probably saw the stress, but we were busy. We were making money. We were doing the right thing. We were just spending about twice as much as we were making. I could tell you 20 really hard days, but this is why it's called One Tough Day. Because I'm going to be back on this podcast and tell you like 10 different stories.
Yeah.
We're just going to talk about one of my tough days. And it was probably a financial struggle that's fairly fresh in my mind. And it was somewhere a couple years ago when we went from 5 to 20 million. It was a big, big push. And we really had never done that before. Nobody could ever warn me. Nobody told me like, hey, you know how much money you're going to need. Nobody told it. So this is what I want to say. Everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants to talk to me about how we grew, but we got to be real. Like, we have to talk about what this looks like financially, what it's going to do to you, what you need to be prepared for, what it could do to your family, what it could do to your coworkers if you're not prepared for it. So,
what just occurred to me, like an epiphany moment again. I remember 2023 well, and I remember the stress you endured, and I tried to hide my level of stress because that's kind of my role in the company, right? I want to be the rudder, keeping us on the straight and narrow. So. And I think you and I definitely hit it well organizationally. I think if you ask most of our people, they'd be like, everything was great. We crushed it that year. And again, we did on paper. We made a ton of money. Just it was constant cash flow issues. Yeah. And you were stressed frequently. You would come in. And I think I'm just now realizing part of what stressed you more than anything was every day you had to focus on the numbers.
Yeah. I couldn't focus on the customer the way I wanted, the coworker the way I wanted. I would get out of bed at 5:30 in the morning. And I would be, because I could ignore. The reason I don't remember bad days is because we got to get through them. I pushed yesterday's problems away because that was yesterday. Today's a new day. I'd get up knowing today's going to be a great day. And I always said early on, if the good days outweighed the bad, I'd continue to do this forever. But at some point, like, it got stressful.
Every day was a bad day.
A few years ago.
Just a few years ago, yeah.
I'd get up at whatever time. I'd get out of bed. I'd be so motivated to take on the world.
And then you get $250,000 in equipment bills.
Taxes are due. $200,000 in taxes today. We got equipment. Hey, we just got shut off. We're on COD because you stretched a vendor to 90 days because you decided to wrap trucks rather than pay the furnace bill.
You think, well, wrapping a truck's $5,000. Try wrapping 40 of them at one time and see how much that costs you.
So one thing though that I just have to say is I even hid that from you for a minute.
Yeah, I could tell you were stressed early on, and I think I was stressing, but I think we just tried to be stable for each other.
I feel like I again had to act like I had it figured out because I told you, dude, I got this figured out, man. We're a $3.8 million company. We're going to grow it. No stress, no problem. We got it, kind of thing, right? I told you our biggest problem would be finding technicians, and that was not a struggle.
That still hasn't been.
We've been, from outside the industry to recruit and bring in and sometimes it was a white collar trade that they came from.
In most cases.
That they were, let's call it copy repair, right?
Yeah, several.
We brought them in, showed them a process, used technology, and I think everybody that came from Xerox or Spectrum or wherever are still with us. It's been awesome. So that actually, surprisingly, was the easy part. What I didn't realize is I was going to run out of money, and I didn't know that I had to tell you that. So you came to my house one day and said, like, hey, dude, like, do you remember that? I had just come back from Oshkosh Air Show, stressed the whole time, hiding it from everybody. And you said, like, what's going on, dude? And I think I had to tell you, like, dude, I'm out of money. Like, I don't know what to do yet. What I realized is, had I told you that earlier, you helped solve the problems, right? That's why it's nice you've got to be open and tell somebody when you're going through a struggle. You can't hide these things, because most likely, with a clear mind, somebody's going to say, like, well, hey, why don't we do this? I was out of ideas at that point, starting to think, like, man, did I make the wrong decision? Did I recruit Steven and all these people that we now can't support? It was a fear of mine for a short time, but you had then given me the confidence, like, we'll get through it, and we're going to do this. This is our next move. So it was awesome to share those struggles. If not, it'll wear on you. If you're alone in that, it will absolutely wear you out, and you'll forget your why, and you won't take care of the customer the way you want, the coworker the way you want, because every day you're focused on making money.
Yeah. It's an incredible story. I do remember that day. I remember it well. And I remember my kind of plea to you was like, hey, let me help you carry the load. Like, let's put some process behind it, figure out where we're breaking down, and we'll fix it. Yeah. And you know what's funny? I had the utmost confidence, and maybe sometimes that's what gets me in trouble is my overconfidence. But to this point in my life, I have no reason not to be overconfident in the things that we do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm confident, and it's not in my own abilities to be confident. It's in my ability to retain talent to make us successful.
Yeah.
We've built out such an incredible leadership team, and we have people who are even outside of our organization who we rely on. You know, people that come to mind are folks like Joss.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you and I don't buy a pack of gum at the gas station without asking Joss if it's a smart decision, right? Like, people like him and Ferris and Quillen and this network of professionals who have just been incredible resources. But they do give you confidence. But to your point, man, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to talk to them, or they're not just going to show up one day and be like, can I impart some wisdom on it? I have no idea what you're going through, but let me tell you what the next step is.
Yeah.
And most people really struggle with that vulnerability, which is tough. But hopefully this podcast makes it a little easier for people to realize that, hey, even what seemingly seems, I mean, by the way, when we were going broke, you were like on the front page of like the top 40 under 40 magazine. Yeah. And we were winning national awards for our business.
And this is the exact reason we're on here. I know that there's half the listeners today, right, are struggling with something, but they have to fake it because everybody talks about how great and successful they are, right? Like when it looks good, because you look at all of the people across the United States, you're like, man, why can't I just be like them? Like, there's a good chance half the people that you see on there are struggling financially, struggling with something. But if you do the right thing, and here's the thing is, one thing about the trade that I know is the majority of people doing this are doing it for the right reasons. There's some shitbags. Cut that out if you got to.
Yeah, we've met them.
And people listening will know that. And if you are one, then good for you or whatever. But I know that 99% of our industry is pure and they do the right thing and they're going through the same stuff we're doing. But if you continue with your why and the roots as to why, and most of the time is because you want to serve a customer, it will work out. But be open and honest with your struggle with other people. And the more I share, the more I gain. The more I shared struggles, the more I gain. The more I share our success, the more I gain. So don't be afraid to talk about that struggle, whatever that may be, with some others.
It's great advice, man. So unfortunately, I know if we stretch this out any longer, then even the 3 viewers that are probably still hanging on are going to be gone and it'll be pointless. So, but man, I can't tell you what the last 5 years meant to me. It's been an absolute journey. It's been so fun. And if I had an opportunity to flash forward to see what the next 5 years brings, I wouldn't do it because the journey itself is too fun to pass up. So love you like a brother, man. I actually think of you like a brother. I think you know that. And it's just been an absolute blast. So for anyone who's thinking about going into business with their best friend, I would tell you, like, it doesn't always have to fail. We probably are in the minority with that, but we still consider each other best friends and talk, and our families are close. And I don't think that more than a few days have gone by in the last 5 years without us talking more. So it's been awesome being in business with you. And I'm confident the next 5. We have some really ambitious growth plans. I think we got the cash flow thing figured out for now. So we got some of that stress behind us, and it's going to be awesome, man. But I appreciate your vulnerability always and your willingness to be open and honest. And I think this will be a really impactful podcast episode for many people who maybe are a little tired of hearing about all the good stuff and not seeing some of that honesty and truth come through. So again, guys, we have an absolutely phenomenal guest lineup. I have about 30, 40 folks that are going to be fantastic, and people who have helped me to get to where I am, and I hope that they can also help you guys get to where you are. And I think you'll find through episode 1 that this is what it's all about. It's not about trying to puffer and make ourselves seem impenetrable, because all of us are on a path, right, on a journey, and we're looking for other people to accompany us on that journey. And we certainly be where we are without the many people that have joined us. So If you're interested in joining, make sure you reach out to us. It's one tough day. Facebook, follow, like us, share our episodes if you think someone else could benefit from it. And when you're able to do that, then we're able to continue to grow. And again, we need guests. So if you're someone who thinks they have a compelling story to share, then we'd love to hear it. Send me an email, send me a text, and we'll follow up and see if we can make it work. But in the meantime, we'll be back again with episode 2 on One Tough Day. Thanks so much, Chad, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
All right.